Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Ganguly. So today I'm going to talk about the 5 reasons why you should do a PhD, and these are the good reasons. So very frequently you may be asked this question when you are applying for a PhD program as to why do you want to do a PhD. Besides that practical reason, there is also the possibility that you may be asked by your friends, by your parents, by your relatives as to why do you want to do a PhD. Finally, there is the issue that before you embark on this significant program, which may take 3 to 5 to 7 years of your life, when you are a very young person, when you could be doing so many other things, why would you want to do a PhD? So let's look at the good reasons, the correct reasons, the appropriate reasons, and I will also make a video as to what are all the wrong reasons why people do a PhD, and those often lead to problems. So let's look at reason number 1, and that is that you want to do research. So essentially, if you have done your bachelor's degree and master's degree and you find that you really like doing research, you really like studying subjects, and you are not content by just studying subjects and giving the exams, but you want to go deeper into the subjects. You are excited by some of the formulations you see, some of the laws of nature and physics you see, some of the mathematical proofs you see, some of the scholarly theories which have come up in psychology, sociology, and so on, and you want to actually be part of the people who contribute to these fields. So if you want to do research, then that's a good reason to do PhD. Now number 2 reason could be that you have thought about it and you figure out that teaching at colleges or universities is one of your favorite professions. So you have been watching your teachers in college and the university, and you feel this is a great job. You would really like to teach at such a university and also do some research. Now remember that in the case of many university jobs which involve primarily teaching, the PhD is still a requirement, because what happens is that the PhD lets you remain current with your field. So essentially, let's say if you are into computing and you do a master's degree, now 10 years or 20 years goes by, and some of the things which you studied, such as logic, predicate calculus, and so on, are less important, and what's more important is machine learning, chat GPT, etc. So what happens is that if you have done a PhD, you would be all the time looking at research going on. You may not be doing research, but you would be very interested in the current research and you would be exploring some of these things. So again, that is why most universities and colleges like teachers to have a PhD degree. So that's certainly a reason. Also remember that academia, teaching, and universities are one field where a PhD is actually required. Most companies can do very well with a bachelor's degree, master's degree, and in very few cases they really do need a PhD degree. You have to convince them that a PhD degree is useful for them. In fact, many companies are nowadays considering why do they need a degree at all. It may be fine if they have certifications, for example Google certifications, or they have done some short course in cybersecurity or blockchain. That may be enough in many cases. So that's something to keep in mind, is that the PhD is actually required by most universities to get a job. Now number 3 point, and that's you want to explore new areas of scholarship, and this is certainly a good reason. If you have been studying in bachelor's and master's level and you find that you are okay with whatever has been done, but you are more interested in what could be done, and your mind is always going toward newer problems or newer things. In case you are such a person who covets the new thing, then you would think of doing a PhD, because this is going to get you into careers which is always going to keep you doing new work, and therefore any possibility of boredom is going to be mitigated. Now remember that boredom is something which often happens to people who are intellectually curious. So what happens is that these people get jaded by whatever they are doing for a few years and they want to do something new, and therefore research careers are very useful for such people. So that would be the third reason, is explore new areas of scholarship. Now the number fourth reason which I have seen some people mention is that I want to build a name of my own, and this may sometimes come across as arrogant and megalomaniacal to some committee members if you are interviewing for a PhD position, but this is actually a good reason if you are interested in doing a PhD. You may not want to verbalize it at all forums because people sometimes get messed up that a fresh student is talking like this, but remember that as a PhD you get to write papers, which are published. If you publish a large number of papers and these garner a lot of citations, your H index goes up. You make one big discovery which changes things a lot, and you can get the Nobel Prize or the Fields Medal or one of these big prizes someday, and you may actually become very famous. So that's certainly a good reason to do a PhD, but that's something you can keep in your mind internally. You do not want to go and tell this to your parents, to your friends, to your relatives, because they are going to mock you at this present time. Because what happens in the PhD program is that it takes many years to get to that level where you are actually famous, and people do not realize that all these Nobel Prize winners were once graduate students and PhD students, and at that time they went through the same travails and problems which you may be currently going through. Now the fifth point is that you want to contribute to new knowledge, and this of course is a very good reason for doing a PhD, is that you feel that there is a body of literature out there and you want to contribute to it. Now in any creative profession, people essentially create a body of work. If you see a person who is writing songs, or you see somebody who is making movies, they will always want to make several movies, they'll need to write several songs. If they are an author, they publish many books and so on. So essentially this particular creative output is known as body of work. So a painter has a body of work and so on, like Picasso or like anybody you know. So what happens is that similarly a scholar essentially has a body of work, and so this is their contribution to the knowledge in general, and this body of work will be in the form of journal publications. It will reside there, it will exist in Google Scholar, in Web of Science, in Scopus, in all these places. And therefore at the start of their life, at the middle of their career, and at the end of their career, a PhD can typically feel good that he or she has actually contributed to this knowledge base and has left the world a more knowledgeable place than when they started their journey. So this fifth reason is also a very good reason to do the PhD. Now a sixth reason which I will give you, which I have heard some female student mention, is that they want to have a family or they want to have children, and they are actually taking some time off after their masters to do a PhD. This is also a good reason, but this may be difficult to verbalize in many settings. But certainly what happens is that if you need a period of time where you can work from home, where you can concentrate on research, then if you are raising small children, that is certainly a good possibility. So again, I have heard some people doing that, and what happens is that women who take this path are very conscientious, they are very diligent, and they do their research very well. So certainly that is not as strenuous as working in a corporate job. So if you are somebody who is a female student, maybe you are working in a company somewhere and you have a very hectic life and you have kids, you may consider maybe taking some time off, doing a PhD, and then getting back to the workforce when your kids are older. So these were some of the points I had for you about why you can do a PhD. Remember that the PhD entails a significant portion of your life when you are very young, typically in your 20s or 30s, and therefore there is a lot of commitment here, and you want to do a lot of thinking before you get into this program, or you will have negative consequences later on. Now I will make another video on the bad reasons why people end up in the PhD program, and these have to do with social mirrors and wrong expectations, and then you can realize as to what are the reasons why you should not do a PhD. So I will end this video here, and I will see you in a new video sometime soon. See you then.